This is part 2 of the feedback.
Okay, we're moving on to some and any. Okay, some and any, we use them, are words that we use with countable and uncountable nouns. Okay, and we use them, some in this case, with plurals, because remember that we use a and an for singular countable nouns. We use some in the affirmative, in countable and uncountable nouns. There are some eggs, and there is some milk. So we use some in the affirmative. Then in the negative, we use any. There aren't any eggs and there isn't any milk. And in questions, we use are there any eggs? Is there any milk? We use any for negative and questions, and we use some for affirmatives. Okay, so now let's go back to our exercise and review it. Okay, you had to complete these sentences with some, any, a, or an. Okay, and the example is there's some chocolate in the kitchen. Number 1, there's an apple on the floor. Is a singular, so it's one apple. And it starts with a vowel, so it goes with an. Number 2, there aren't any potatoes in my bag. We use any because it's a negative sentence, and it's potatoes. Number 3, is there a cookie in my lunchbox? Okay, we have a singular noun, and it starts with a consonant, so we use a. Number 4, are there any carrots in the fridge? It's a question, so in questions we use any, and carrots, it's plural. And number 5, there isn't any cereal on the table. Okay, it's negative, so we use any. And again, you have to remember that we use a and an in the singular form. Okay, let's move on to a lot of, much, or many. And here we go to this part. Okay, here we have countable nouns, and here we have uncountable nouns. For the affirmative, we use a lot of in both cases. There are a lot of eggs and there is a lot of cheese. We're talking about quantities, large quantities of food in this case. In the negative, we use many for countable nouns and much for uncountable nouns. That's in questions and every time that we talk about quantities. There aren't many eggs. We can count eggs. And are there many eggs? We can count eggs. So we use many for countable nouns. And we use much for uncountable nouns. There isn't much cheese. And is there much cheese? Let's go back to our document and review the exercise. Exercise number 3, you had to complete with a lot of, much, and many. And the example says, do we have much oil? Oil is uncountable, remember, it's liquid. Number 1, I don't drink much coffee. Any liquid, tea, coffee, water, milk, soda, juice, etc. is uncountable, so it goes with much. Except when we talk about bottles, cartons, okay, where the liquid comes. Number 2, we always buy a lot of cheese. This is an affirmative sentence, so it's talking about quantity, a lot quantity of cheese. Number 3, Nick doesn't eat many vegetables. This is a negative sentence, and we're talking about vegetables that we can count. It's not a specific which vegetable, but in general, we can count them. Number 4, are there many strawberries in the garden? This is a question, and we can count strawberries, so we use many. And number 5, do we need much chicken for this recipe? As I told you, chicken is uncountable when we are talking about food. And it's a question, so we use much. Okay, and we move on finally to how many and how much. This is very simple. We're just asking how many or how much of something do we have. Okay, and it's the same rule with many and much. We use many for countable nouns and we use much for uncountable nouns. How many apples are there? Apples are countable, so we use many. And how much sugar is there? Sugar is uncountable, so we use much. Let's review this exercise. You had to complete with how many and how much and the words in the box. Example, how much sugar does Jake put in his coffee? Sugar, uncountable, so we use much. Number 1, how many people are there in the class? We're talking about people that we can count, so we use many. Number 2, how much bread do you eat every day? Okay, remember that bread is uncountable. We count bread as a unit. Number 3, how many rooms are there in the house? Rooms, we can count them, so many. Number 4, how much money do you have? Okay, money is very special because we can count money. We can count the coins, we can count the bills, but not money itself, okay? Keep that always in mind. Money is uncountable. And now finally, number 5, how many languages do you speak? And languages, we can count English, Spanish, Portuguese, etc. So we use many. And this is the first part of the feedback, talking about grammar content. And we see you for the second part, that is vocabulary. So see you next video.